Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy Thursday, June 5th to you and yours. Started like a couple of seconds late today because, listen, I was all ready to go. Everything was all good, and then I totally forgot the box for our Recher Reveals. It's going to be at 1 o'clock today. Dane Moore, the head coach of the Freedom Patriots, he sent me a box a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to make sure that we had a day where there wasn't really a lot of other stuff going on to be able to highlight the Freedom Patriots. Of course, we got our scarves up today, a little bit changing the background a little bit. We got some more things in the work. I got my Man U scarf up there, changing the background a little bit. A lot of the giveaways that the Tampa Bay Rays have given us over the years. Some really, really good stuff there. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Oh, man. What a day. What a day. Another win for the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll get into that momentarily. Big program today, as always. Of course, plenty to talk about when it comes to Michael Kelly no longer being the AD at USF. He moves on to Navy. We're going to break that down with Seth Varnadore from Bay Area Examiner at 12:30. I was surprised. Seth is one of the guys, man. He doesn't get talked about nearly enough. A guy that covers football and really does a great job of breaking down tape, keeps Zigo out of it. A great addition to the Bay Area Examiner all those years ago. I really enjoyed chatting with him. So he's going to talk about Michael Kelly, what Jose Fernandez has got going on as well. That is at 12:30 today. 12:20. Before that, more impressed with the Oilers or slightly concerned with the Panthers after game one of the Stanley Cup final? What a game last night. There's nothing that beats the Stanley Cup playoffs. I've been telling you that for years. Again, 1 o'clock, Recher Reveals, and then 1:15, who says baseball isn't a contact sport? Our guy Cole Russo from Tampa Spartans baseball team. My goodness. I don't know if you saw what happened to him last night, but we're going to have a picture. This dude fouled a pitch off of his face. Off of his freaking face. Unbelievable. Wow. Nuts. Insane. Crazy. But he's a warrior. He'll be back in there. And listen, there's rain in the area. They're a little wet in the area in Cary, North Carolina. So the game that was supposed to start earlier today is not going to start till 6 o'clock. So UT and Northwest Nazarene, they're going to start after that. So that game could be at 10, 11 o'clock. It's going to be a late one tonight. So I won't know until very late tonight, early this morning, if I'm going to be going to Cary, North Carolina for the finals to see UT do their thing. Chances are we probably will because of how good UT is. We love those guys for sure. Shout out to Coach Joe, Coach Sam, Coach Jose, and the entire crew up there in Cary, North Carolina. Before we get started on the Tampa Bay Rays, reconvening of the trial down there in the Dominican Republic with Wander Franco. And listen, we had Hector Gomez on when we were over at WDAE, Zach and I, and broke down this entire thing. And Hector himself said that he didn't think that Wander Franco was ever going to play in the big leagues again. Certainly not for our Tampa Bay Rays. You like this? I really like this Tampa hoodie here. I'm a big fan. But he was not optimistic at all about Wander playing in the big leagues again because of what happened. And just, it's, man, regardless of what you think, it's different over there. The age, listen, yuck. Yeah, no thanks. But one thing that there was a couple of people we were talking about this the other day is if they are so focused on trying to get Wander for human trafficking, I don't know if this is necessarily a human trafficking case. You want to talk about sexual assault, you want to talk about underage stuff like that. I think, okay, you have a platform to stand on. But if you're just talking about human trafficking, I don't know if this was it. Talking about, all right, well, Wander kidnapped this girl and he kept her away from her mom, but it seemed like the mom was kind of pimping out her daughter. Doesn't really make much sense, does it? Why would Wander do that and kidnap her like he's the one that needed money? She was the one that was trying to make money. So I don't know if the prosecution's whole case is on that. It doesn't make much sense to me. But from Juan Recio from earlier today, judges reviewing private video testimony the minor girl just gave previously. And this is something that was just reposted from Mark Topkin. I wanted to share it with you guys here on the program. The tweet on the left here, the court has requested that all persons present who are not related to the case leave the courtroom. The judges will begin viewing videos, including the interview conducted with the alleged victim in the Giselle chamber. Then, the court ordered a 5-minute recess. Franco was the first to leave the courtroom, and he looked completely shaken by whatever he had seen in the video presentation. He even left with teary eyes. He didn't speak to the media. His lawyer immediately took him to the bathroom. So, whatever that may mean, I mean, it's tough because all you're doing is just speculating, right? It could be the situation that's overwhelmed him, right? Doesn't necessarily have to mean what he saw in the video. But man, this thing's going to drag on. It's going to drag on, and it sucks because you look at a guy that had such a bright future here in the Tampa Bay area, a guy that was, one of the young stars in baseball, the Rays, who a lot of people out there they're clamoring, please, 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 whatever it takes, please sign a guy to a long-term contract. We want a guy we can invest in. And you finally get that guy in Wander Franco, and then he does this. It's one thing if Wander Franco he turns out to be a bust. He turns out to be injury prone. That's one thing. But for that to happen, oh my God, man. It's just that's just the worst possible scenario. And it's sad because now it looks like the Rays have it took them a little while to figure out all right, who's our new face of the franchise? How are we going to construct our team to make sure that we're in a position to compete in a very, not the greatest this year, but AL East that's usually pretty damn good. And now they've kind of figured it out. But man, you're always going to look back and say, what if? Because there was some proof of concept. This team going 13-0, you're like, damn, man, this team could have been legit with the pitching and the defense, and having a guy like that. Unfortunately, we'll never know. He'll never play for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I doubt he'll ever play in the big leagues again. So the more we hear about that situation from down there at the Dominican Republic, we'll certainly pass that on to you. But just, it sucks. It sucks that we have to keep kind of bringing that up, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast. But that's the negative when it comes to our Tampa Bay Rays. And shout out to David Terry and Dolan and Bart Hill and everybody. Where are you watching the J. Recher podcast from today? Feel free to put it there at the bottom of the screen. We'll accept any of the super chats going on. Every single contribution really certainly does help. And if you want to get in on the conversation, we can do that as well. Why is this? There we go. Here is the link. If you want to get in on the conversation and talk some Rays baseball, Wander, Junior, Aranda, here it is right there. Click on the link in the chat and get in on the conversation, and we'll talk some Rays baseball right here. Last night, another dub for the Rays, and there was just one play, and I've been saying this for so long. When it comes to our Tampa Bay Rays, it's always going to come down to the little things. You have to do certain things throughout the ball game, right? I know they've had some offensive outbursts, but more often than not, they're going to be playing in a lot of tight ball games. It's about pitching. It's about defense. We know where their shortcomings come on the offensive side of the baseball. But last night, they win a game 5-4. And the biggest run that they scored was in the third inning. And it was on just what you think a normal play from Jake Mangum, okay? He's up there. You get into a situation, okay, you're starting to make some headway. You score one in the first. Now you're scoring some runs in the third. But it's not just that they scored a run. It's how they scored a run. All right? Mangum comes up to the plate. All right? There's 2 outs. Runners on second and third. Bottom of the third. They're already up 3-0. All right? He hits a ground ball to first base. Kumar Rocker goes over there. The toss is slightly behind him. Okay? Yandy Diaz comes in to score. So you're thinking, all right, 4-0. All right, 4-0 lead going into the fourth at the very least. Pretty damn good. Well, Kumar Rocker continues to jog into the outfield, and Jonathan Aranda, who was on second base, doesn't stop. Rocker tries to throw the ball in to Jonah Heim behind the plate. Doesn't matter. far too late. That's the type of heady baseball that is going to set the Rays apart from everybody else. It's so wild to me how a guy like Kumar Rocker, any player, right? You understand that it's safe. As soon as that happens, as soon as you get safe, you stop your feet, you turn around, you look for the next play. That's such a lack of wherewithal. And you see Marcus Semien, the second baseman, putting his hand out like, dude, there's a play still going on. You can't have mental lapses like that. And when you look at a team like the Texas Rangers, part of the reason why they were able to win the World Series a couple of years ago, because they were on it. You remember that trek started in St. Pete when they beat the Tampa Bay Rays at Tropicana Field. They were sharp as a tack. They left no stone unturned. And now you wonder, like, why are they 29-33? Why are they third in the AL West? That right there. Those are the things, the little things that you can't afford to do. Baseball is a game of fine margins. And you look at the record between these two teams, 32-29 after the win last night, 3 games over 500 for the Rays, 29-33 for the Texas Rangers, 4 games under 500. That's wild. That's way too good of a baseball team to be under 500. I'm talking about the Texas Rangers. And yeah, you're going to get your offensive outburst. And shout out to Brandon Lau, home run number 12. He doubles an RBI. And then, of course, Aranda with the hit as well. But it's the little things, guys. Those are the things. We said it like last week. Remember when the Rays lost by 1 run? There was 3 different plays that I pointed to. Said those are the things right there. Shout out to Anthony working in Largo but residing in Spring Hill. Appreciate you, buddy. Let us know where you're watching the J Retro podcast from today. But when I watch this Rays team, they're starting to do more of that. Taking the extra base, making good plays on defense. And I know they made a couple of errors last night and it could have cost them. But that's how you make up for it. That's how you make up for some physical mistakes that are just going to happen through the game. Mentally, stay on it. Stay on it the entire time. 8 hits last night. You win the game by 1 run. That run that Jonathan Aranda scored ended up being the game winner. I have been so impressed with Jonathan Aranda this year. And I said this on the program yesterday, and I'll say it again today. You are building around the ABCs of this team. Okay? It's Aranda, it's Brandon Lau, and it's Caminero. A, B, C. Those are the 3 guys you build around in this infield. All right? Brandon Lau's streaky. He's up and down. But listen, when he's healthy, he packs punch and he can win games and he can carry you for a couple of weeks. It's just the way it goes. 3 for 4 last night with a couple of RBIs, the home run, the double. Huge fan. Huge fan of what he does when he's at his best. And when he can stay healthy, to me, when I look at Brandon Lau, the thing that bothers me more is not bothers me, but just the inability to stay healthy. The streaky, I think that's going to happen. It's a baseball player. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have your moments of greatness, moments of weakness. What kind of offense are you really getting from the second base position anyway? From a lot of other guys. And if you're going to get it, you're going to get a guy like that. He's going to play a pretty good defense as well. You kind of learn to live with it over the years. Just stay healthy. Again, I'm a lot more okay with the streakiness if you can stay healthy and stay in the lineup. Because if you're talking about a guy that's not a big dude at all, that can hit the ball 107 miles an hour, 411 feet to give you a solo 1-0 lead in the first because of a solo shot like that, learn to live with it. Yandy with a hit last night, still 242. It's got to get better there, but Aranda's averaged to 326. I know there's a lot of talk about Caminero and some of these other guys, but Jonathan Aranda's that guy for me. He's got to be in the All-Star game this year for the Tampa Bay Rays. No doubt about it. Benny, finally working. If you're in Clearwater, call Amy's China 1 for a delivery. Okay, there you go. Russ, what's up, pal? Currently on the new Howard Franklin Bridge. Great stuff. Appreciate you, Hammer. Make sure you check out my guys, Honest Hammer Construction, doing great things as well. Our guy Russ doesn't get better than that. Yeah, I mean, now looking at this Rays club and a guy like Shane Baz last night picking up the W to go to 5-3 on the year. Listen, 5 innings, 3 runs, a walk. Good keeping those walks down. Give up the home run to Jonah Heim. We'll take that. We'll take that. And we talk about pitching and defense with this team. All right, well, what's the bullpen going to do? Well, last night you give up 3 hits over those 4 innings, only give up 1 run, P. Fairbanks, and the strikeouts. 11 strikeouts total, 5 coming from Boz, 1 from Rodriguez. Montgomery was throwing heat last night. That's what you want to see from Mace, who said it with his 10th hold of the year, and Fairbanks, again, shutting it down with his 11th save of the season. You're going to have a couple of mistakes. You've got Caballero with a throwing mistake, Lau with a throwing mistake, but I want you to focus on that. Focus on this team and what kind of mistakes do they make. Do they make physical ones? Do they make mental ones? If you make physical ones, that's part of the game. That's going to happen. It's the way it goes. That's baseball for you. Nobody's going to be perfect. You tip your hat, you move on, you just try to limit the damage, right? Mitigate the disaster. That's what they did. 5 for 9, hitting with runners in scoring position yesterday, which I love to see. And, we talk a lot about different baseball teams, and the University of Tampa, they beat Northwest Nazarene last night to force a, if necessary game tonight, which is going to be a late one. But the first game that they played against them, it was a 5-3 loss. And in one, I think they made 4 errors in that game. Physical mistakes are going to happen. But when they happen, limit them. Don't let it snowball. And if you can do that, listen, I think that's what sets you apart from everybody else. And now, if you're the Rays, you're looking square ahead at, all right, what's the rest of this week look like? Don't look too far ahead. You came up with the big 5-4 win over the Rangers last night, and now you have one more game to sweep this thing. And I said this a couple weeks ago when they played the Marlins down there in South Florida. You got to win at the very least 2 of 3. You can't lose the series to the lowly Marlins. It's Steinbrenner Field bobblehead series, Junior Caminero night. A lot of people are going to be at that game tonight. They're going to want that bobblehead. Win this game. Win this game, you sweep this series, you're feeling really good about yourself, and then you're staying home against the Marlins team. It's a 1:10 start tomorrow, which is rare, 4:10 on Saturday, 12:10 on Sunday, before you go on a nice little road trip where you go to Boston. It's up and down with the Red Sox. You never know what the hell you're getting with those guys. And then you go to Queens to take on the Mets. The Mets are a damn good team, one of the best teams in baseball this year. So these are the win, munch points. That's something that John Cooper says, right? Munch points. Yeah. Well, you want to munch some wins if you're the Tampa Bay Rays before you have a decent size road trip. And I say road trip, but just like I'm talking about the competition that they're facing. You just never know with the Red Sox, even though it's been up and down for them. Jack Leiter on the bump for the Rangers tonight, 4-2 with a 3.66 ERA. Our guy Ryan Pepio on the mound tonight, 3-5 with a 3.21 ERA in his last 3 appearances, though. 1.37. Pep throwing the ball really, really well. The Rays have kind of found their groove, man. They certainly have. And you look throughout baseball, you kind of, even now, you have an idea of who the good teams are, right? You know that it looks like Yankees and Rays. I mean, the Blue Jays are also, they're tied with the Rays. I don't know if I trust them. Red Sox, 4 under 500. They're 3-7 in their last 10. The Orioles have won 8 of their last 10. They've won 5 in a row, and they're still 12 games under 500. I think it's just too little, too late for them. The Tigers are a good ball club. We know the Twins and Guardians and the Royals. Look at the American League Central. We know the White Sox are terrible, awful. The Fighting Momolas, they're terrible. They're 24 games under 500 already. 24 games under 500. And we're only 62 games into the season. My God, you got 100 games left, and you're already 21 and a half games under 500, or 21 and a half games out. You stink. AL Central, the Tigers are looking sharp. AJ Hinch has done a fantastic job there. But the Twins and the Guardians and the Royals called up our guy Jack Caglione. He couldn't obviously play last night because that game got rained out. If you missed our chat with Preston Urso, who was obviously, we spoke about it on the program. He is a guy that is best friends with Jack Caglione. He was able to go to the game, flying from Cary, North Carolina to see his dad and his brother with UT in the D2 national championships, flying to St. Louis to see Jack make his MLB debut. If you missed that chat, really, really good. Go look at our channel here on YouTube. Lady Evil should have been 5-3 last night. I love how you put 5-3. That missed throw in the 9th inning made my heart shake a little bit, but thank God Pete took care of it. You got that right. Russ asked them from going to the Longo celebration game Saturday. Can't miss that for sure. Unfortunately, I won't be going because I'll probably be in Cary, North Carolina for UT. If not, then there's a good chance that I will be there. Hopefully UT takes care of business because this only comes around every once in a while. But the Longo celebration game, it's for him, remember, he's retiring because he doesn't want to wait another full year. It's okay. Celebrate him here. He's going to get his number retired next year at Tropicana Field. So I'm never opposed to a guy getting honored twice. Who cares, man? I'm not saying about you, Benny, but just we pick apart things in sports so much, and we bitch and moan about things and complain about things are bad, and we don't give people their flowers when they're alive. We wait till they pass on. Like, let's find more reasons to celebrate things. Let's find more. And I know it's not going to be the leading story on the news because everything is about disaster and everything is about terrible things that are happening, and everybody's about hot takes and all this other crap that we see in sports radio or sports TV. I don't care. I don't want to subscribe to shit like that. I want to stay positive. I want to focus on the good things. That's always going to be me. If that limits my growth, if that limits my attraction, I don't really care because that's who I am. When I get pissed off and when I get mad at things, I think you guys know that that's me. Like, that's something that I really feel passionate about. I'm not doing that every day. I'm not coming on here and screaming and freaking out because that's just not who I am. For the most part, I'm positive and optimistic, and that's how it's going to be. But I'm also a human being. Some days I have bad days. Some stories really piss me off. That's just the way it goes. And I think that's what we need a little bit more when it comes to our news, when it comes to sports, because it's the same old thing. Who the hell wants to turn on the TV or the stream or the radio and hear the same freaking thing? I want things that are pertinent. I want topics that are being relevant right now, instead of the same old conversations of LeBron and Jordan and the Mount Rushmores and stupid ass conversations, usually about football, that have nothing to do with anything currently at all. Mind-boggling. Karen Clementi in the house. Hey, girl, what's going on? I know you are looking forward to Lightning season. Marlin just got swept by the Rockies. Got to get at least 2 games out of them. You are right, David Terry. You are right. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final last night. Edmonton wins in overtime over the Florida Panthers. I ask you guys, and want to chime in on the conversation here. Do you guys, and there's the link in StreamYard, click on it on the chat. Was it more of a case, are you impressed by what you saw last night from the Edmonton Oilers, or are you slightly concerned from what you saw from the Florida Panthers? And I'm not going to say, that's why I say slightly, right? I'm not concerned big time because the Florida Panthers are champions. Not many teams you could say that they're champions. They earn the benefit of the doubt. Nobody deserves anything. They've earned the benefit of the doubt. But what I saw last night, especially late in that game, I didn't like what I saw from the Florida Panthers. And there's always going to be push, right? There's always going to be one team plays well for a little bit, another team, there's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs. It's hard to be great for 60 minutes. That's the goal. Try to play a 60-minute game, but it doesn't happen like that. It's not realistic, right? You want to talk about somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to sports. Show them like, oh, they suck during this 5-minute period. That happens. But the Oilers are losing this game, right? They're down 3-1. And a huge goal from Victor Arvidsson to answer right back after the Bennett goal made it 3-1. It was a game of kind of answers, right? Draisaitl gets the Oilers on the board just 66 seconds into the game. Bennett scores. You know, they challenge the play. They lose the challenge. Marchand scores on the power play. Boom, boom, boom. You go from Oilers up 1-0 to down 2-1, and Florida's feeling pretty good about themselves going into the first intermission. And then you look at just a couple of minutes in, Sam Bennett scores to make it 3-1. That was a big part of the game. How Edmonton was going to respond, and they did so in a big way. Victor Arvidsson scores just 77 seconds later to make it 3-2. You get within striking distance, you're in good shape. Matthias Ekholm scoring that goal at the 6:33 mark in the third period. That is the guy right there that I've been talking about for many, many years. He is a guy that is such a solid defenseman. He's their Ryan McDonough. And when he was injured, you saw the difference. Just like when Ryan McDonough wasn't with the Lightning, you saw a difference there. But for him to get a goal, that's a huge boost for Edmonton. And then you go into overtime. Leon Draisaitl scores on a feed from, you guessed it, McNasty. Connor McDavid does it again. Corey Perry gets an assist on the goal as well. And boom, Edmonton wins 4-3 in overtime to take a 1-0 series lead in that one. You feel for Tomas Nosek, who flips the puck over the glass late into overtime. I mean, it looked like we were going to double OT. It really did. And then a play like that where it's you take it out of the referee's hands. You really do. What is he supposed to do? No chance for the referees to got to let that one go, and Edmonton capitalizes. But I look at down the stretch. I look at the third period. And as much as we talk about ebbs and flows and ups and downs, I didn't like what I saw from the Florida Panthers in the third period. They got out after outshooting Edmonton 17-8 in the second. They got outshot 14-2 down the stretch. In that one game where the Lightning lost 3-2, and I know you guys remember it, where they were holding on to that lead. They were holding on to that lead, and then all of a sudden, boom. Or was it Ekblad scored, and then Seth Jones scored, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, the Lightning are behind. They lose that game. Everybody kept saying the Lightning were icing the puck too much. They weren't staying aggressive. They didn't have their foot on the gas pedal. They stopped playing their game. They played that prevent defense. Well, that's what Florida did last night. I don't think I've ever seen, and I've watched a lot of Florida Panthers games the last couple of years, a ton. Obviously, they played the Lightning the last couple of years as well. But I don't think I've ever seen them do that. Even in game 7 last year, where they were up 3-0 in the series, they lose the next 3, and then in game 7, they're clinging to that lead. They still were aggressive. They still kept the heat on the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid and those guys. You didn't see that last night. They looked a little tired. And you have to wonder at what point does the attrition of playing all these games, not just this in this postseason, but also in the last couple of postseasons, when does it catch up with the Florida Panthers? It caught up with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I know a lot of people that were against that notion didn't want to hear it. Well, you don't want to hear it in the moment. But when you look at what the Tampa Bay Lightning were able to do, going to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and then bowing out in the next couple of first rounds, and then hearing what the players had to say after it, you don't want that. And in the time, you don't want to admit that's a factor. But after the fact, you look back and go, played a lot of hockey. Is Florida going to be saying that next week? We'll find out. They're going to respond because that's what champions do. They got it. The series doesn't start. No series starts until you win a game on the road. But this is the reason why I had Edmonton winning this. I feel like this is the time. McDavid gets another crack at the finals. He's just so damn good. Their defense, they put such an onus on defense, whether it's Bouchard or Ekholm or Nurse. Like, they have guys that have been through the trials and tribulations of a long regular season and now another postseason where they make another run to the finals. So when you have the 2 best players, I think they do have the 2 best players in the series. I'm a big Barkov fan, so throw him in there. But it's tough when McDavid gets that puck and he starts flying around, and it just seems like he knows exactly what he needs to do now. He's not as frustrated as he was in last postseasons, and it's not just him. It's the guys around him. Matthias Ekholm is that guy. I had Edmonton at 6 going into the season. And it's not hate because I got nothing but respect for the Florida Panthers. They're such a damn good hockey team, but I think the play of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the fact that they've gained that experience over the last couple of years, you add that with the Florida Panthers and, running the end of this race. That's why I'm going to stick with it. Edmonton in 6. All right, let's bring him in. Our guy, I want to change your name to an Italian version of Varnadore from Bay Area Examiner. I think that's good, brother. I think it makes a lot of sense. How are you, bud?
I'm good. I've heard that before in talking to some Italians. They went with the Varnadore. So I've heard that before.
Oh, man, no shortage of news when it comes to USF. I mean, Jose Fernandez scheduling these games with Duke and South Carolina, and that's a good thing for him. But obviously the big news, Michael Kelly leaving USF for Navy. Seth, you're just initial, and tuning into the podcast yesterday live. You guys did a great job over there on Bay Area Examiner. I was watching the video a little bit, going from one place to the other. But what was just your initial reaction when you heard that news yesterday morning that MK was leaving USF for the Naval Academy?
Well, I think initially it was surprised that he was leaving, but not surprising that he was leaving for Navy.
Right.
That's a place that holds a really special place in his heart. His dad's obviously a graduate there. It seems like he spent some time there in his youth as well in Annapolis. Really cool place to I don't know if you've been up there for a game, but really, 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 really fun.
Got to get up.
Yeah, it's a great spot. But I just remember, and I mentioned it yesterday, talking about it, the 2019 game. His dad, he was so proud, I think, to be there as the athletic director going into Annapolis. His dad was there with him. It was like a big deal for him to be there as the AD rep of a school. USF got hammered in that game, and I think that was kind of one of the final nails in the coffin for Charlie Strong. But you could see the disappointment on his face. But before the game, you could kind of see how excited he was to be back there. So it makes a ton of sense. That's not surprising. I guess somewhat surprising that he would leave, but once you kind of see here, okay, here's what it is. I think the Navy job is really interesting. That's the one thing I think a lot of people view it as a step down because they just look at overall athletic success. But, Navy football is a giant brand, and you don't have to deal with like the NIL side. These are all these kids are government employees, so they don't get NIL. You don't have to deal with as much of the transfer portal. Like it takes a lot of the headaches that college administrators are talking about. It kind of takes that away, and he gets to go back to where he's from, where he, I think, consistently goes and visits and like has vacations and things like that. So families up there. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no doubt. I got my I didn't mean to do this yesterday, but I have my Army-Navy football here because I got a chance to go to a couple of the Army-Navy games. And you're right, man. Like there's so many like terrible, and you see this, Seth, like there's so many crappy things that we have to talk about when it comes to sports and the way people behave and, the transfer portal and NIL and coaches and disagreements and lying. And the Army-Navy game is the best of the best. It is. Everybody's on the up and up. It's a rivalry that means a lot, but it's never crossing the line. There's never disrespect. I've been on the field after the game a bunch of times, and to hear both of them sing, it's just the respect there. And you're right. Like this is a job for Michael Kelly, and I said this yesterday on the show. They got Michael Kelly in there because of the man who he is and his ties. Not so much of like, oh, he's going to take us and Navy's going to be in the college football player every year. Like this is, and MK knows that. Like this is the last job he's probably going to ever have, Seth. They're not going to be like, well, we went 7-6 this year. We got to get rid of our athletic director. Like this is just a different ball of wax completely, right? Like for all those people that are saying, I agree with you. It's like a step down. The Naval Academy is completely different. This isn't going to Alabama. This isn't going to Miami. This isn't going to Florida. This is going to a place where like, this is his home. He grew up in DC. This means something to him. I think this is the last job that he's ever going to take. And I don't look at USF in a bad way out of all this. I don't look at this as another situation of, oh, this is a stepping stone job. I just think this is a unique opportunity. And if I'm Michael Kelly and he's my friend, I don't think I could tell him to pass that up. I feel really good for him.
Yeah, I think the last AD was there for 24 years or something like that. Yeah. So they're not turning and churning people over there at the Naval Academy. They hire good people, let them do their job. I'm sure he's going to do really well there. But yeah, it seemed like more of a homecoming. So that was, once I saw, he's leaving for Navy, made total sense. It totally clicked in. That makes sense. We thought it was possible he could leave for an opportunity as a commissioner or something to that effect, just because of how well connected he was and how highly people thought of him down the line. But I think the initial shock from a lot of people is that he's taking an athletic director job at a school that's not as good in athletics, I think, overall as USF. But when you look at the other factors, I think it makes sense.
Seth, how do you grade the job that Michael Kelly did with USF? I personally, regardless of how I feel about the person, I feel like he's left South Florida in a lot better place than he found it. And I'm alarmed, and I don't know if it's the vocal minority or not, but it was kind of weird to me to see there was a lot of negativity on social media yesterday. And I thought it was going to be a lot more grateful. I thought it was going to be a lot more of a thankful type of mindset, but I look at the, indoor practice facility that wasn't here. I look at the starting of the on-campus stadium build. I look at just the relationships and all the different coaches that I know Jeff Scott didn't turn out, but you look at Golish and you look at Hannes and you look at Amir, you look at Coach Hodgson, look at Coach Jenkins. Like there's a lot of good coaches, Coach McCord for lacrosse. Like there's a lot of good things. And from everybody that I hear that used to scoff at USF that weren't South Florida fans, they're like, hey man, like there's a lot of good things going on there. You want to get on the train. Like, this is a locomotion that's going in the right direction. How would you assess the job that he did here at South Florida?
I think some of it is to be determined. Like if he was at the stadium and all the facilities improvements are real and they have happened, and he did a really good job spearheading those, and those were him and, you know, guys like Will Weatherford really being aggressive and going out and doing it when it's been talked about forever, but he's actually got it done. I think if he was able to get what a lot of people I'm sure are most upset about is the conference situation. If he was able to get that move up into a power conference done before he left, I think he would be viewed very positively. So
Right.
I think it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see. You got to kind of wait and see what his legacy will be, because it's really going to be tied to Golish, Hodson, and then what happens with conference realignment. If they
Right.
don't ever make the Power 4 jump, I think a lot of people will look back to the Jeff Scott hire and say that was a totally missed opportunity that set you back behind the 8 ball at a time when it was pivotal to have a great hire there, to have that success, to make that jump into a power conference. Now, if they end up going to a power conference and Golish kind of keeps on the trajectory he's on, if he can kind of make those improvements and Hodson can kind of look as good as they look early in recruiting, I think he'll be viewed really positively and as somebody that really set them on a great path to get into a better conference and really help lay the foundation for a really, really good athletic department. But I think some of it remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's a great answer. It really is. I look back at the Jeff Scott thing, and I remember being there that day when he was introduced, and I just remember looking up and down, and I was trying to find. Everybody thought that was a good move. Like, there was a lot. It was tough. May have been a couple of people, but I mean, you're talking about a guy that was working under Dabo Sweeney. Obviously Clemson was a lot better at that time than they are right now. I mean, Clemson played, I think. Obviously, we know how stubborn it is when it comes to Dabo in the transfer portal. Yeah. You better get on the board, buddy. But, I mean, at that time, people were looking at Jeff Scott like, hey, he's kind of the next coming of Dabo Sweeney. He was the belle of the ball, Dabo was. And I didn't look at that hire like, wow, this is such a crazy hire, and it didn't work out. He said a lot of the right things. I still use one of his things. It's not WHO, who we play. It's HOW, how we play. I love that. I thought that was great. Yeah. And I remember talking to Jeff Scott, family man, like, we look back at it now, it was a terrible hire, but it's easy to say that, right? Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, and at the time, he was a guy that would constantly see his name brought up for, Power 4 jobs. Like,
right.
Tony Elliott ended up getting Virginia later after, but they were kind of seen as equals at that time.
Yeah.
And it seemed like Jeff Scott could have held out for a Power 4 job. But, yeah, it just didn't. And these are hiring football coaches is really difficult. And I think it's really difficult, especially if you don't have kind of a football background or having some people that may be able to see some of these things happen before, or maybe see the cracks where we don't see it. Because it's also very possible that Jeff Scott was listed as a candidate for all these jobs because he was very nice to the media and people liked him,
right? Yeah.
Which I think you see a lot, right? Like looking back, you're like, oh, okay, well, he was listed for Power 4 jobs every time they came up, but he didn't get a lot of offers. It seems like now nobody ever gets offers that doesn't take the job. But
right,
so but yeah, it's always easy to look back. But at the time, it was seen as a coup. It was seen as like you went and hired a guy that was looked as one of the next big things possibly. It did not work out, obviously, but at the time it seemed like a good hire. It seemed like you went and poached somebody that was at the top of a bunch of people's lists, but didn't work out.
No doubt about it. And timing is everything, right? Because if it's a couple of years before, when you're talking about conference realignment and Willie Taggart's here, I mean, USF's probably in a P4 already, right? Like, it's timing is everything. That was the worst thing, and it worked great for UCF, right? It terrible for USF. So I think timing needs to be taken into account as well when it's entire. I don't know about you, but I think eventually we're going to get into a huge, like, Power 4, split the country up in 4 super conferences. Like, eventually there's going to be something that has to happen, because you're just kind of meddling in kind of weird shit right now. That's kind of the yesteryear of the NCAA with these conferences. But, now we're seeing, like, there's some of these big schools are like, well, we'll go do our own thing. How do you see the future of college football? And obviously it trickles down from there. And I could say college athletics, but let's stay on the college football side. Where do you see it from your personal viewpoint? Where are we headed when it comes to conferences and conference realignment?
I think there's a big split coming at some point where it's
Mhm.
going to be basically, and what we've said before on USF is they're kind of really well positioned wherever they end up in this split. If I think they are willing to spend money, you saw I think it came out on Twitter yesterday some like G5 athletics budgets, and they were second only to Oregon State, who was coming, was a Power 5 team very recently. So USF's willing to spend. They spend more than anybody else in conference on athletics, I think. So, they'll be one that would want to make that jump and be willing to make that investment. Now, do you get the invite? I don't know. I think the market is very, desirable for a conference, and willing investment. The stadium will obviously be helpful, but if you get left behind, well, you're probably going to be winning national championships or competing for national championships every year in whatever the next division is. Now, people won't enjoy that, but as much. But I think there is a big split coming, and it's going to be all right. Who's willing to spend money consistently year over year? USF has shown that they are willing to spend money, so I think they would get kind of brought into that. But it's always hard to tell. It depends kind of how many you want to go, how many teams want to. What is this? Is it 60 teams? Is it more?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of the big question, I think. But I think a split is inevitable at this point.
Yeah, I think back to when Brian Hodgson got introduced there over at USF, and I think it was Will Weatherford that made the comment of, that's how invested they are in athletics, right? There's other schools out there that they look at it and they're just like, we got to spend money on this. USF, they've never been, well, at least in this tenure with Michael Kelly, they have not been like that. It's, the NIL, they were one of the first schools that were like, this is the future right here. And I love that. I think that was a big coup to start. I mean, Byron Brown staying, that's getting some of these ladies on the lacrosse team. And I know people like lacrosse, but a lot of those ladies could have went somewhere else, but some of the NIL money helped them out a lot. And I believe that whoever they bring in, president wise, AD wise, they have to have that same mindset, right? Because you're not going to have Stroman and Weatherford and all these guys putting together this. They're not going to bust their ass to, you know what I mean? Keep pushing this ball down the hill and then bring in somebody that's like, whoa, can't do it. Academics, maybe athletics, right?
No, I think that's one positive, is I think those guys are really athletics forward in their thinking. And they just re-up for 2 more years, I think, or something to that effect. So they're going to be involved in these hires. I would imagine the athletic director would get hired first just because it could happen faster.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, the board of governors stuff that we saw pop up this week. You can just go hire athletic director, which I think, could be a good thing. You can go get that person and say, hey, listen, we're also going to be the same group that's hiring the president. So you're going to have alignment because we're going to be hired. We're going to be the same group recommending who gets hired as president. So you'll have alignment, all that stuff, which I think is to be important for the AD. But yeah, I wasn't super, involved in terms of how things went in the past. But it seems that this regime is a lot more athletics forward than previous ones. And I think they're going to want to continue that.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so now back to the Michael Kelly situation. Who are some of the people that you guys were talking about yesterday? Who do you think is the front runner for the job? Obviously, I mentioned on the show yesterday Ken Erickson and Lalo Prado. Lee Butler, is another guy that's in, there. And, some people are so focused on it's got to be an outside hire. I mean, okay, it can be. I know you want some different ideas. I get that. But there is also something to be said about a guy that knows the lay of the land, that bleeds green and gold, that gets an opportunity like this and is able to, put his own spin on things, because being an athletic director is so unique. It's all about your relationships. It's all about thinking outside the box. It's all about raising money and pushing this entire thing forward. What is your thought process on this entire, who's going to be next, and who would you say is the favorite?
The favorite, I don't know. I believe they're going to use a search firm to go out and kind of look. I think internal candidate you would want to pay attention to is Chris Pierce. She's the deputy athletic director, chief operating officer. She's also the admin over football. she's the senior woman administrator in the athletic department. So she's involved in a lot of the conference meetings and things like that. And some of the football needs being the admin over football. I think she's an internal candidate to pay attention to. I'm kind of I'm in the group that I think they need to go external, right?
Mm.
Because this is about this hire really, I think, will be judged solely on, do you get us into that bigger conference? So to me, I think you want to hire somebody that maybe has some different connections or has been different places. One that's almost a mix of the two, external, internal, is Rob Higgins, the executive director of Tampa Bay Sports Commission. He worked in the USF athletic department previously. He's also an alumnus. So, and he's connected everywhere. I mean, Super Bowl, WrestleMania, like this guy runs the gamut. Yeah. So
he's friend of the program. We love Rob.
So I think he's a name that they'll, I guess in previous, I wasn't here for the previous athletic director searches, but we just put out a flow chart apparently that says, have you offered the job, Rob Higgins? No, offer him. And then they all basically all comes back to offer him the job, ask him if he wants more money. And then if he doesn't take it, panic, hire somebody else. But I think if you also want to go look at, who are some of the best athletic departments right now in the country, I think Tennessee is one that's like really on the leading edge of a lot of stuff. They really got out in front with NIL with their Spire Sports Group and have really done a great job. And you look at kind of the big three sports, all right? So who's having the best success in the big three? Tennessee baseball, really good. Tennessee basketball, really good. Tennessee football made the playoff, right? Brady Hart is the deputy athletic director there and the chief development officer. He manages their fundraising arm, the Tennessee Fund. Last year, they raised like $140 million in the fiscal year 2024, which was a school record there. So I think that's also going to be important, right? A guy with some connections, a guy that can raise money because, I think a lot of the athletic administration for especially like football could end up going to a general manager type role that we're seeing pop up more and more. But the AD still got to be able to raise funds. And I think that's important when you're building stadiums and putting infrastructure in and having to make that investment possibly into paying players more and more. So he could be a name out there at Tennessee that's interesting.
That's a great ad here. I don't know if you guys mentioned this yesterday. I forgot to mention it yesterday. I was kicking myself when I left. One thing that nobody's really talking about is, and I don't know if this is public knowledge, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but the deal between the Vinnick Sports Group and USF has ended. So the broadcasting now is all going to go in-house for South Florida. That is huge. What happens now? Because the intermingling of the Vinnick Sports Group and USF Broadcasting, there's been a lot of crossover, and it's helped out big time. Now, USF has to look in-house. So what does that mean for the football broadcast? What does that mean for the baseball broadcast? What does that mean for basketball? Because I know that USF really wants, of course, football being on 125 The Bone, that really helps them with the their stick. But I know they want men's basketball on the radio all the time instead of just being on an app and we're talking, obviously ESPN Plus and all that stuff. But what happens to the other ancillary programs too? Lacrosse had a really, really good, what did they do? Because they didn't really get much love on the radio side. What happens to baseball and softball, like two programs? We know baseball's on the rise, softball making the NCAAs again with Coach Ken. That's another thing. I don't know if you guys spoke about it yesterday, but that's part of the thing that the new athletic director is going to have to figure out as well, and figure it out fast because football season is going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, it's coming quick. I'll be really interested to see how quick they make this hire. I don't think the way I would imagine this isn't something that just crept up on them yesterday. I'm assuming with the way the government typically works, that there's a lot of lead time involved in making decisions. So I don't know if that's how it is for hiring Navy's athletic director, but I'd imagine there was some prior notice, a little bit of some of this stuff. So I wonder how far along they are in the process.
How long do you think Michael knew? Because I brought this up yesterday. I was in the broadcast booth with him when they lost to East Carolina, and I looked over at him, Seth, and he was kind of like looking out into space. Yeah. And Michael's a very calm guy. You know what I mean? He keeps a lot in. And I don't know if he was just trying to be respectful because he was in the booth with Derek and I. But I just looked over to him and there was something about it that I just said, he looks like he's thinking about something and it's not baseball. And
Yeah.
it wasn't in a mess. It wasn't in a jacked up way. Like he doesn't care about this team. Like it just seemed like he was very pensive, and he was going through kind of the mental gymnastics a little bit. How long do you think this took? How long do you think he had this on the brain?
I mean, it's pure speculation. I have no
it's tough
idea.
to speculate.
I
right?
would just assume that anytime the government is involved, it usually takes a little bit longer.
Right.
So I wouldn't think they just hired him on a whim. But maybe they floated it to him, and then discussions happened in earnest after. I have no idea. It could have all happened very quickly, but I don't know. It doesn't seem that things don't seem to happen too fast, that fast, at least in college athletics. There's a lot of things going on. So I don't know. I couldn't really speculate on that.
Yeah. All right. Before I let you go, let's talk some Gators real quick.
All right.
I got to ask you, man, what's the kind of the thought process going into this season? I mean, Billy's like, thank God DJ Lagway's here. DJ's actually going to be in town this weekend, signing autographs at the local expo. My buddy's helping to run it. He's like, this DJ Lagway guy? I'm like, yeah, you should probably know who he is if he's coming to your event. But what's kind of the thought process as far as the optimism goes going into the season with Billy, DJ, and the crew?
Well, I think they feel like they've got probably their best roster they've ever had under Napier. So it's kind of the schedule's difficult, obviously. I think they're a little bit thin in a couple spots. So injuries could be a concern. Like quarterback would be one where if Lagway goes down, it probably hurts a lot of stuff. But they return a bunch on both lines of scrimmage. I think they feel really good with the guys they got started at all their position groups. Like they've got some. The offensive line is returning most of their starts from last year. Is rated really highly by a bunch of experts. Running back group should be pretty good. Receiver group is going to be young, but you've got some guys that could pop, like a Dallas Wilson, who's from the area. He's kind of went nuts in the spring game, had like 190 yards receiving or something. So I think they feel pretty good, but it's one of those things where the schedule's so difficult. If you get in a bunch of one-score games and all the coin flips go opposite you, you're in trouble. Now, if you get them all, and I think if you can get to 9 wins or so in the regular season, you'll probably make the playoff, which I think for a lot of fans is what they're eyeing. They may, all right, you're not going to go undefeated with the schedule. Make the playoff, I think, is what a lot of people are hoping. If they do that, I think Billy's off and running and good to go. If they don't, then it's another talk about Coach Napier. But I think he's got things moving the right direction. But one of the big issues with them so far is they finally last year was kind of the first time they were able to take advantage of some momentum they generated. It seemed like they'd always get a little bit and then lose a game, or get a little bit, lose a recruit. And they haven't been able to just build momentum. Going into this year, they're really building that momentum. There's a lot of buzz, obviously, around the team. So now would be a great time to kind of have your best season if you're Napier. I think if they do that, he's set for a little bit. If they don't, then we're going back to a lot of the same conversations you had during last season. So,
yeah, I feel like Gator fans and Buck fans together, they're like, yeah, okay, you're doing good, but we're just waiting for you to screw up, and then we'll just get the pitchforks out again and get rid of Billy. I feel like there's Buccaneer writers and Gator writers that already have the story just written out. All they have to do is update the timeline. Tabo's fired. Billy Napier fired. We'll put it to the side. Wait till it finally comes down the pike. Pretty freaking wild. Seth Varnadore, Bay Area Examiner. You guys keep up the great work. Stieg and Colin and Nathan and everybody over there. You guys do such a wonderful job. Thank you so much for your time, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
You got it, buddy. All over it, man. Make sure you follow Seth. He is the one thing I love about Seth. Detail. Doesn't let his emotions get into, everybody gets so emotional, myself included, and I think it clouds their judgment. I just love that Seth just breaks it all down in a way. I mean, that one guy there from Tennessee, that could be the name that nobody's talking about. And I am not one of those people that I'm looking at this whole thing of, I was going back and forth with, I think it was Bold Disclosure on Twitter yesterday. If they go with somebody internal, it's going to be an abomination or something like that. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far, right? I do think, especially after talking to Seth and talking to people, I wouldn't hate an outside hire. Give us a different perspective. But if they vet the process and they go with somebody internally, and like Seth said, maybe somebody that's kind of half in, half out, like a Rob Higgins, I don't think that's a terrible thing at all. Not at all. I do have to talk about something. and it's the transfer portal. And this is so crazy that this just came out a little while ago. And this is Coach Cliff Godwin of ECU. And you guys know me and Cliff Godwin. Listen, this guy's done a great job at East Carolina, right? But, you know, the way he goes about his business, it's just not my cup of tea. However, he goes on social media today and he says, our system is so broken. We have coaches at P4 schools texting our players directly who are not in the portal, and we have proof. I mean, this is just the way it goes. Everybody wanted NIL. Everybody wanted transfer portal. It's the wild, wild west. There's still no think about how crazy this is. There's still really no parameters on this at all. You could say, oh, they have this or have this. No, like, okay. There's ways around it. Look at what Cliff Godwin is saying right now. This is a guy that did such a great job. Such a great job this year with ECU. Didn't have their best season. They end up winning the conference tournament. They gave, giving Florida all they can handle. And he's dealing with that stuff. I saw it last night, Carlos Hakame from USF, who I'm just stunned that he's going into the transfer portal. You're talking about a guy that didn't start in the beginning of the year and then finds his way onto the team and playing second base and leading off. What more do you want? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, listen, to each their own, but you have a guy like Carlos Hakame going into the portal. I don't know what more you want. I mean, maybe you're trying to parlay that into a better chance and better opportunity. And if it happens, fine. But you're not just seeing this from, all right, it's just a little school going into a big school and, 5 conference to a 4. Like, you're seeing that everywhere. Beard, the outstanding pitcher at FAU, who I was talking to a couple of major league scouts at the AAC tournament, and they didn't think he was going to go into the transfer portal, and now he is. So it's like, all right, where's the, and I know the schools don't have it, right, when it comes to the loyalty, but it takes a little bit of the sting out of everything. It really does. Some breaking news on the Tampa side. St. Petersburg approves $5 million more for Tropicana Field repairs. The city's also picking up the tab for security costs at the Trop. And this is from Dirk Shadd. I don't know if you guys have seen. Here we go. There's the picture. Dang. Pretty wild. More money flowing in. City Council on Thursday unanimously approved about $5.3 million more for repairs and expenses to help make that happen. That's a total of $38.5 million approved to date. The total cost of the project, some of which will be covered by insurance, still on track to cost around $56 million. So the raise pushing it back. Blah, blah, blah. First $1.67 million proof is for more waterproofing and remediation through December 31st, when the roof is expected to be completed. When are they? Cowboys. Trying to look at Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred said Wednesday that the league remains optimistic that the Trop will be ready for or near opening day. One thing that I did hear, and I don't think it said it on there, is when they're going to start. Germany. First shipment in August. So it's not going to happen until August, maybe later. So when you look at that entire thing, this whole situation, you have to wait. And I know this because I have one of the guys that actually works at Tropicana Field. They're not going to start like the building on this whole thing until after storm season, because what happens is you start building it, and then here comes a hurricane, here comes another storm, and then what? You have to be very cognizant of that as well. So keep an eye on that. All right. So we haven't done one of these in a while. We're going to do it here today. I'm very excited. Today is our next edition of Recher Reveals. And if you want to be a part of Recher Reveals, if you're a baseball team, if you're a softball team, high school, travel ball, college, we've already had Steinbrenner. We've already had the Rowdy send something in. We've already had the University of Tampa send something in. So if you want to be a part of Recher Reveals, reach out to me. Hit me up on all social media platforms at JRecher, and we will find a way to get you on board. Today, the Freedom Patriots. And Freedom means a lot to me because that was the school that I coached at here locally many, many years ago under my guy, AJ Lepla, and also Mason Woodside. I had such a great time coaching there in New Tampa. And some of those players I still keep in very close contact with until this day, including the head coach, Dane Moore, who, I mean, how do I put this? So, you have your kids that are like your favorites, and then you have kids that you didn't really like. Dane is like somewhere in the middle to the bottom. He was like, I didn't really care for him too much. I thought he wasn't that great of a player. He really didn't do much for the team. So it is what it is. I'm really surprised that, he's actually a head coach of a team and that a school would put all of their faith into Dane Moore leading these kids. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can't wait. If Dane's watching this live or if he watches back at this, he's going to be losing his mind. No, Dane was one of those guys where, and it was early on in my high school coaching career, he was a dude that really took the bull by the horns and said, hey, I'm going to put all this work in. I'm going to have an approach at the plate and I'm going to do damage. And it turned into him playing ball at the collegiate level. But I just remember there was a guy early on in the count. He was up there, leadoff hitter. He was going to take some big swings, 2-strike approach, get wide, put the ball in play. There was such a maturity to his game. It was cool to see because he had a plan. In baseball, you really have to have a plan, and he did that. And great to see him grow and to be able to, be an assistant coach and now the head coach, working there at Freedom High School. Just a lot of great people there. And, trying to get that program, in that right direction, getting kids playing at the next level and getting them competing in Hillsborough County because it just doesn't get better than Hillsborough County baseball. We've talked about a lot with Jack Caglione as of late, and Kyle Tucker and Pete Alonso and Lance McCullers and all those guys. But shout out to Freedom High School. Shout out to Dane Moore. And thank you so much. Are you guys ready? Here we go. All right. First box. And of course, in classic Dane fashion, he's got to close the box with athletic tape to make it really hard to open. Thanks, Dane. Appreciate you, buddy. All right. So here's the box. And it's J. Boop Recher, because one thing that I started at Freedom was the Boop. Nice way to give everybody daps. All right, you guys ready for this? First up, this is slick here, boys and girls. A camo hat, the FP with the red and blue fitted joint with the USA hat on the back. All right, large. It's good enough for my big ass head. Nice. These are sharp. Dane, listen, I gave you a lot of grief, buddy. I really do. But this is a strong way to start. This is a very strong way to start Recher Reveals for the Freedom Patriots. Well done, my friend. These are really, really nice hats. The game can't go wrong with that. I told somebody the other day I'm a big 5950 lids guy, 5950, just the old school traditional MLB hats. But a very, very close second when it comes to fitted hats are these game hats. These are fire. All right, next up. Let's see here. What do we got here? All right. Oh, okay. We're going with the long sleeve hoodie with the FP Nike brands. I like that. One thing that we created when we were at, can you see it? There you go. One thing we created when we were at Freedom, I gotta love the hood, is my guy Tad Criswell. He was the guy that actually brought me to Freedom High School. And we came up with a slogan that said, "This ain't no Mickey Mouse." And actually was created by my guy Lou Estevez that I coached with for many years. This ain't no Mickey Mouse, meaning this is no ragtag. This isn't, this is serious business here. So Tag actually put on a shirt, "This ain't no Mickey Mouse." And God, I wish I had that shirt. It's somewhere in my travels. If I find it, it'll be one of the happiest days. But this ain't no Mickey Mouse. Definitely great. And Tag is the guy that actually brought me on to Freedom. So I got to meet AJ Lepla and Dane Moore. So it worked out really well. All right, let's see what else we got here. Final thing in the box. Nice. A polo. Oh, this. I want to talk about Jumpman. Jordan Polo FP baseball all day. smooth on the back. This is very similar. I think this is the same. This is literally the same shirt in a different color that I'm wearing today. Dane and Freedom, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. This is great. This is stitched on too. You want to talk about this ain't no Mickey Mouse. This ain't no Mickey Mouse right here. The FP and the baseball stitched on, as well as the jump man. You cannot beat that. Dane Moore, the Freedom Patriots. I love you guys. Good luck in summer ball. Good luck in fall ball. I know the future for the Patriots it's very bright there when you have Dane at the helm. So thank you guys so much. And the one thing that I loved about Freedom is that when Dane was there, his mom, Vicky, was so involved. And I just remember a lot of the kids that, played there when I was there. Kyle and Eric Schindler and their mom, Pam, Lori Morgan, Cam and Colton's mom. And there's a lot. I'm not mention all of them, but there's just it takes a village. It really does. And driving the practice, driving the games. And when you get to high school, it's a little bit different, but you're helping out with fundraisers and you're helping out with the concession stand. And there's just parents and brothers and sisters, like a lot of them, they give a lot. And a lot of times they don't get noticed and they don't get recognized. And I think it's important to be able to recognize the moms and dads, the brothers and sisters, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles that go and support all their kids. And especially at the high school level, because for the most part, that's where it ends, right? Dane was very fortunate to be able to go play college baseball. I, on the other hand, instead of going to play college baseball, I wanted to get into broadcasting. So that's what I decided to do. So my games at Central Islip High School with my pals, that was the last time I was ever going to play competitive ball. And, I started playing when I was 4. So I played, 14 years of baseball, and it all ended, in high school. So a lot of these kids that are out there and they play travel ball and they do all these things, like, most of them, they won't be playing at the next level. And that's crazy because here in the Tampa Bay area, that number is probably a lot higher than it is in other areas. But thank you, Dane Moore and Freedom High School. Once again, I'm so proud of you, Dane. I give you a lot of crap. I really do. A lot of back and forth, but you are the right guy to lead that program to, brighter days ahead and have them competitive. But just to be able to see a guy, remember, it's not just about what you're doing in this world. It's about, how you're affecting other people's lives. That means a lot to me. And that's part of the reason why I love coaching and part of the reason why I'm going to get back into coaching with Hit Factory over the summer. There's something about that. It's so rewarding. And some people may say that's selfish, but fine. So be it. Being out there on the baseball field, there really is nothing like it. Baseball is a game of failure. It's a game of camaraderie. It's where you just leave all your differences aside, your race, religion, your political affiliation, all that stuff. You just leave it out there. It doesn't matter. Everybody come here onto the baseball field and let's find a way to be successful together and find a way to win in this game of failure. So once again, thank you to Dane and everybody at Freedom. Really, really good stuff there. All right. So let's look at some of these other things. I want to make sure that everybody has the latest, the news cycle that we've got. All right. I want to get into something that we saw last night here. How about Derek Carr saying, I just couldn't take the Saints money? I mean, good for you, I guess. You don't want to just take the Saints money? Well, that's just kind of the way it goes, bud. Go get it. Go get that money. I don't fault anybody for getting the money, especially with the teams in the NFL. Like, they don't really care. They don't really care about you and anything that you do. All right. So I want to make sure that I put this up in the right spot. Also, Rick Pitino says he's not interested in the Knicks job. No surprise there. Marco Sturm is the new coach of the Boston Bruins. Tough player, man. Long-time player for the Boston Bruins and the San Jose Sharks. I mean, this is a guy that really has paid his dues. 30th coach in Bruins history. So good luck to him. Not really, because it's Boston. It is the way it goes. Vasily Lomachenko retires at age 37. One of the greatest boxers of this generation. Just a year after his last fight, an 11th round TKO win over George Kambosos Jr. in Perth, Australia. There were talks of him fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, but I mean, my God, as an amateur, he was 396-1. One of the smartest boxers, and he's one of those dudes that just continued to fight guys bigger and bigger and bigger. A real joy to watch him. A Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Dean just texted me. My girl was freaking out when you started ragging on me. LMAO. I was like, I know what he's doing. This is hysterical. Well, I'm sorry to you and your girlfriend. That's great. That's the way it goes, man. We got to have fun here on the program. So Lomachenko retires as well. But I want to get into what happened last night. Okay, so UT ends up winning their game against Northwest Nazarene. So last night I'm at Ian's place. We're hanging out over there, and we're watching the game. And we see, it was a close game. All of a sudden they blow up, and UT ends up going on to win 13-5. But late in the game, something happened that just it freaked us out. It really did. And it was scary because we didn't really know what was happening because it happened so fast. I'm trying to figure out the way to be able to send this to myself. Okay, here, I'm going to do it here. Bear with me, folks. You're going to want to see this. All right, there we go. All right. So in the game, we're watching it, and they're trying to build on this lead. And then all of a sudden, our guy Cole Russo comes up to the plate. And you guys know Cole. He's been on the show before, obviously with his cousin Alexa. And a big part of the team when it comes to the Tampa Spartans. So Cole comes up, and he swings the bat, and all of a sudden he hits the ground. Or he doesn't hit the ground. Excuse me. He just his helmet flies off, and then he starts going towards the dugout. We're like, what the hell happened? Well, what happened was that Cole swung the bat, and he fouled the pitch off, and it was a pitch kind of low it in, hits, and the ball popped right up and hit him right here. Helmet popped off. He starts grabbing at his face, heads towards the dugout. We don't know what the hell happened, but we knew that it wasn't good, and there was just this pall over the fans there in Cary. Nobody spoke on either team. No fans. Your heart goes out. He's a tough kid. And as we're watching it with Ian and the rest of the guys at the Dignitary Cafe, they're like, did that guy just just foul a ball off his face? Yes, he did. And the next thing that was said was, I can't believe he didn't get knocked out. That would have knocked out a normal human being out cold. And Cole's not a normal human being, that's for sure. And he just, he's wearing it. He's going over to the dugout. He comes out of the game. Stella goes in for him. Cole is out. But I wanted to know how he was doing. So, of course, I reached out to the family. Of course, everything's okay. I don't want to say of course, but Cole's tough as nails. So no surprise that he's okay. However, he did get 6 stitches. And I can't show the after photo, but this is the before photo. This is right after Cole got hit in the face. Here it is right here. Check this out. Boom. My God. And if you're a little squeamish, I'm sorry. That's the way it goes. But my man Cole right there, holy smokes. Right above the left eyebrow, 6 stitches. And if they clear him, he's going to play tonight. And I tell you what, with the first game starting at 6 and that game coming afterwards, there's probably a good chance that he's going to be able to play depending on the swelling, depending on if he can see. But my God, 6 stitches for Cole Russo. Who says baseball is not a contact sport? Don't tell Cole Russo that. What a badass. And he stayed to watch the rest of the game because that's who he is. And listen, if he has his druthers, he's going to be in that lineup tonight. I don't know how you keep him out. He's a warrior just like the rest of the Spartans. They're fighting a 13-5 win over Northwest Nazarene last night. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not betting against Cole Russo. I'm not betting against UT. How can you? How can you bet against those guys? I wouldn't. It's exciting to be able to see them perform at that level and to, listen, you got to beat a team twice. It's not going to be easy, but you're going to have to beat Northwest Nazarene twice after they beat you. If there's one team that can do it, it is certainly our Tampa Spartans. So get well, Cole. I still can't believe it, man. We were again showing the guys, and they were just like, oh, I can't. Oh, did he go down? Did he go down? I'm like, no, he didn't go down. They're like, man, that's a tough son of a gun right there, that Cole Russo. My goodness. Wow. But that's what it is. That's the Russo fam. That's UT in a nutshell. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me today. A little bit of a shorter show. We got a big show again tomorrow. We'll talk about whether UT is in or out. Some latest on the Rays. Can they sweep the Texas Rangers? Also, the Buccaneers, the latest on USF and Michael Kelly. And at 1 o'clock tomorrow, Kavika Mitchell is going to join us on the program. One of the newest inductees for the USF Hall of Fame, former Super Bowl champion with the New York Football Giants. So we cannot wait. And of course, we have our irons in the fire. We were going to have another big guest today, but unfortunately, he had to reschedule for next week. So keep it locked right here. And we have some great stuff here on the program. Follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. A big thank you to Seth Varnadore for joining us on the program, as well as our good pal Dane Moore for the Recher Reveals. If you want to be a part of Recher Reveals, hit me up on social media at JRecher, and we'll get things happen, and we will highlight your team here in the Bay Area. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. Go Spartans, baby. Raise up. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the JRecher podcast. I'm gone.